Leila Salazar-López is executive director of Amazon Watch, a nonprofit group that works to protect the rainforest and the indigenous people who live there. She joins us now to talk about this via Skype from San Francisco. Thank you so much, Leila, for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
That story certainly illustrates the issue here. The Amazon is an ecosystem the whole world depends on. 900,000 indigenous people live there. An indigenous leader was killed also back in July. And as we heard in that report, it's miners and loggers. Why has it come to this?
Well, unfortunately, there is an all-out attack, a genocidal attack on indigenous peoples throughout the Amazon. And in Brazil, it's particularly a travesty, followed by with the fires, with the increased deforestation, with increased fires, and also attacks on indigenous people. And this is really, a policy that's being promoted by the government.
Yeah, let's talk about that because the government really isn't doing anything to stop this, or is it looking the other way? Many blame the pro-deforestation policies implemented by the Brazilian President Bolsonaro. What has he said about this?
Well, this is a policy of the Brazilian government led by Jair Bolsonaro. It is his plan and their government's plan to promote economic development in the Amazon, the most biologically diverse rainforest and ecosystem, terrestrial ecosystem on this planet. Bolsonaro, with his government and corporate entities, primarily agribusiness and the mining industry, are promoting economic development in the Amazon, which means destruction for the Amazon and the people who guard it, the forest guardians like Paulo Paulino Guajajara. They have been defending their land, and they have been already under so much attack by this government. And this is another martyr that we are seeing, and we're seeing the increase in attacks against not only the rights and territories of indigenous peoples with this government, but the lives as well.
Absolutely. And this fact illustrates how bad it's become. According to official numbers, deforestation in the Amazon accelerated more than 60% compared to the same period last year. And here's a quote from the Brazilian leader: "The Amazon is not being devastated, nor is it being consumed by fire." So he's just not acknowledging what is happening. Who's standing up to him? What groups, what forces? We know that world leaders came together this summer to address this problem of the fires.
The fires were the alarm bell that sounded throughout the whole world, that finally sounded across the world, because indigenous people have been trying to sound the alarm of the attacks against their rights and territories since Jair Bolsonaro was elected, and I would say for hundreds of years before that. And when the news of the fires broke out, the world noticed what was really happening. And while the government and corporations will say that these fires happen all the time, not this way. This is a massive increase in fires, coupled with the massive increase in deforestation and the rise of the murders. Just last year alone, there's already been a 23% rise in the murders against land defenders, making Brazil the most dangerous place to be a land defender. And when you combine that with the fact that indigenous peoples are the ones that are protecting their land that is now islands of rainforest, that they are protecting because of what? Because of the lawlessness and the impunity that is being promoted by this government. This government is actually giving illegal loggers, whether legal or illegal, loggers, miners, agribusiness, anyone who wants to claim land, to destroy it, to make way for business, they're getting free rein to do it. And the government isn't doing anything to protect them. The government is actually encouraging this. The government has taken funds away from all the agencies that are designated to protect indigenous people and the environment. So how could they be saying that they're going to do everything they can to protect, to find who's responsible for this when they're the ones that are promoting this. So
Absolutely.
what we say is, you know, we're not counting on the government. We are counting on the international community at this time to stand up and show their support for Indigenous peoples, show their support for the Amazon, which is why Indigenous leaders, including Sonia Guajajara, the leader of the Indigenous movement in Brazil, is in Europe right now, calling on the European governments, European corporations, and governments to say, we will not trade in these high-risk commodities.
And that's what has to happen. It's got to hurt Brazil. We've got to leave it there. We appreciate so much your information and your passion in this endeavor. Leila Salazar-López, thank you.
Thank you.
Really, it is just heartbreaking what is happening.